Hail Megatron, our new leader.
Good God, what happened?
What?
I really shouldn't have taken that Tylenol. Ignore the murderous robots. Good God.
So, the Constructicons, eh? The first and by far the greenest combiner team in Transformers history. As individual bots, they're little more than interchangeable henchmen. I mean, look at Hook here. Can anyone tell me anything about this guy? Any noteworthy deeds, unique character traits, what his dreams and life goals are? I didn't think so. But that's totally fine. There's always a need for generic bad guys to be cannon fodder for our heroes, like anyone of Middle Eastern descent in every action movie ever. Racism. The Constructicons were first introduced in the G1 cartoon episode Heavy Metal War, where they terrorised some poor construction workers. Although, thankfully, no humans were killed, one construction worker's life was certainly put at risk. This fella looks like he had a cholesterol level so high that the sight of fluorescent green transforming robots would likely induce a massive heart attack. His pal did have a truly awesome moustache though. The calming effect of this moustache probably saved the big fella's life by keeping his blood pressure below a fatal level. After stealing the episode's MacGuffin, the Constructicons returned to Decepticon headquarters, where Megatron states he was glad the Decepticons had taken the time to build them. I don't know how to tell you this, Megatron, but the Constructicons actually built you, pal. Like my last urine sample, it turns out the origins of the Constructicons is rather cloudy. Later episodes of the cartoon revealed that the Constructicons were builders on ancient Cybertron. They built Megatron, constructed the fabulous Crystal City, then got turned evil by Megatron, then fell out with Omega Supreme, then disappeared for millions of years, only to be rebuilt by Megatron on Earth. Jeez, these fellas have a more confusing and convoluted origin story than Sonichu. Maybe we should get Christian Weston Chandler in for some rewrites. Although separately they are nondescript, easily defeated henchmen, the Constructicons' true strength emerges when they come together. The 6 individual bots merged to become Devastator, the massive green, easily defeated juggernaut. Oh dear. Every time he shows up, Devastator gets his sack well and truly towed. Even in his debut appearance, all it took was a bloody hologram and one shot from Optimus to send the Constructicons crashing back to Earth. To use a wrestling term, it's clear to me that Devastator needed better booking. You see, when a new monster heel is introduced, he needs to be booked going over in a series of squash matches. Matches where the bad guy easily defeats the good guy with brute strength and ruthless aggression. This way, the heel comes across as a threat, a force to be reckoned with, an insurmountable challenge for the good guys. For a perfect example of this, look at any of the freaks the Undertaker went up against in the mid-90s. Giant Gonzalez. All pubes and no willy, that fella. Anyway, under no circumstances should a new monster heel lose his first match. That would make them a jobber on the highest level, like Dwayne Gill or that fella Triple H almost killed. It's very difficult to feel fear for the Autobots going up against the massive green bell end for this reason. Devastator simply has never won a bloody fight. Without a doubt, the Constructicons' finest hour came in the 1986 movie. Along with Megatron and Starscream, they massacred 4 of the most beloved Autobots aboard a shuttle headed for Earth. Scavenger even did arguably the worst murder when he shot Prowl in the chest and made all that smoke come out of his mouth, giving countless 80s children lifelong trauma. Then, at the Battle of Autobot City, the Constructicons combined in one of the coolest pieces of animation ever. Devastator finally came across as a true threat. He was a destructive titan, tearing chunks out of Autobot City before picking up and throwing the wreckage at our terrified heroes. Absolutely awesome. Then the Dinobots turned up. It was a pretty even fight. Devastator took out Grimlock, Sludge, and Swoop, but was incapacitated by Slag. I'd say that this battle was undisputably a draw, so although it's not a win, it's also not a loss. Congratulations, Devastator. To mark their performance in the movie, the Constructicons have just received new toys as part of the Studio Series 86 line. How do these green bastards stack up? And are they better than this £20 undersized Combiner Wars KO I got off at AliExpress? Let's find out. In robot mode, the Studio Series 86 Constructicons look great together. A real nice assortment of goonish green and purple henchmen. Do you ever think about how this would be the exact colour scheme of the Hulk Schmeckle? A big veiny green trunk topped by a bulbous purple plum. Try getting that image out of your head. Anyway, when you start focusing on the individual bots, you start to notice some limitations. Unfortunately, these fellas are about as limber as a pensioner with sciatica. Not one of them has a waist swivel. That's a poor show for these two deluxes, let alone these two Voyagers, and most definitely these two fellas sold at commander price. For shame. There has been some articulation added from the Combiner Wars version in the arms and legs. For instance, at least Studio Series 86 Scrapper has surpassed your average core class bot and has elbows this time. Wow, such flexing. At a glance, these sets are incredibly similar. Ignoring size differences, Hook, Scavenger and Scrapper are practically indistinguishable. You can tell that Bone Crusher, Mixmaster and especially Long Haul have received the most reworking, but it's not necessarily all positive. I'm looking at you, Bone Crusher, you fat T-Rex armed fuck. Maybe it's time to lay off the Energon goodies before you develop robot diabetes. It's only when you start messing with both sets that you start to feel the difference in quality. The bots from my undersized Combiner Wars set feel pretty bloody ropey. They're constructed with really thin plastic, have terribly loose joints, and weigh so little I feel like they're about to crumble to dust like the vampires from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You can really feel why these fellas only cost £20. Conversely, the Studio Series 86 set are incredibly solid. Each bot feels weighty and substantial, like one of Don French's rockin' tits from the early 2000s. Despite their comparatively limited articulation and somewhat of an over-reliance on ball joints, these bots are nice and firm and are a pleasure to mess with. Again, like one of Don French's rockin' tits. Well, that is apart from Scavenger's right arm, which, similar to my stool, is very loose. And I'd really need to go to a doctor. I love the muted shade of green these fellas are done in, which is fortunate as there's so much of it. The purple is also lovely and rich and works well as an accent to the green. There's loads of nice sculpted in Graveleys across the bots, even in hidden areas like inside Scrapper and Long Haul's tick cupboards. Across the board, the Constructicons head sculpts are also immaculate. I especially love Scavenger's weird setup. He looks like that one fella from Mr. Plinkett's Phantom Menace review.
You can talk, oh my God, what's wrong with your face?
The biggest glow up of all has to be Long Haul. Long Haul now looks like a big, beefy, muscular bruiser, as opposed to someone who has the proportions of your average person featured on My £600 Life. Doctor Now would really lose his shit at this fella. Long Haul definitely hasn't been sticking to the diet plan. There's definitely a marked improvement in the quality between these sets. The Studio Series 86 bots have more articulation, are substantially more solid and fun to mess with, and are more pleasing in the eye. Except you, Bone Crusher. Are these improvements really worth 10 times the price though? Let's check out the alt modes next. Transformation on both sets is super simple. I doubt anyone but the most ham-fisted simpletons or fans of Michael Bay's filmography would need instructions for any of these bots. When you're done, you're left with a fantastic assortment of construction vehicles. Of special note is Studio Series 86 Mixmaster. The Combiner Wars version didn't know whether it was coming or going, but Studio Series 86 turns into a very pretty cement mixer. The front cab with its purple windshield and silver grille is just delightful enough to give me a half chub. Apart from Mixmaster, improvements in vehicle mode are minimal. Hook now has a extendable crane. Great, eh? You'll get veritable seconds of fun with this. Again, it's difficult to justify the price difference between those two sets. You do get an extra trailer for long haul. I wonder what this is. We'll find that out in the last mode. It's time for the main event, my friends. It's time for Devastator. Wow, all the concessions to the individual robot modes were worth it. Studio Series 86 Devastator is truly a thing to behold. He's so chunky and sturdy, just like your mum. Once all the individual robots come together, you'd be forgiven for thinking this was a high-end, non-transforming action figure. Unlike the individual robots, Devastator has all the articulation you'd expect from a modern figure. Even a waist swivel. Everything here just looks amazing. From this Cro-Magnon browed visored head sculpt, to this lovely purple chest trapezoid, to his perfectly proportioned construction vehicle limbs. Devastator is an Adonis in green. The only thing I worry about is the longevity of these shoulder joints. They're not loose by any means, yet. This is the only place on Devastator that needed ratchets but didn't receive them. This is due to both arms being deluxes, I suppose. It's no biggie. You might just have to shoot some sticky goo in here if these loosen up over time. The thing that makes Studio Series 86 Devastator so well proportioned, stable and articulated is the secret 7th Constructicon, who I like to call Grundle. You see, Studio Series 86 Devastator's dick and balls are a separate piece. In vehicle mode, this takes the form of an extra trailer for long haul, and you can store all the wee extra Devastator pieces. It's a good solution, to be honest. Having this extra piece allows long haul to have much nicer proportions in the Combiner War version, and gives Devastator much more usable leg articulation with these better positioned knees. The only real eyesore on Studio Series 86 Devastator is this butt flap and backpack. I thought this looked rather egregious in promo photos, but in person you barely notice it. It would have been nice if all the extra mass sat higher up in Devastator's back, but that's just being nitpicky. Personally, I use the backpack as a delightfully ergonomic handle to pick Devastator up. There's also lots of storage space back here for the individual bots' guns. In Combine mode, the Combiner Wars KO is totally outclassed. It feels so light and flimsy in comparison. In Combine mode, Studio Series 86 shows exactly why it's 10 times the price. From the Studio Series 86 Constructicons' rocky start with Bone Crusher and Scrapper, this Devastator has truly made the set an essential purchase. I cannot recommend them enough. If you're on a tight budget though, this KO is a good alternative. Although he's certainly not as pleasant to mess with, he still looks pretty epic next to other combiners on your shelf. If I were you though, I'd try my best to get this Studio Series 86 set. Maybe indulge in some petty theft, or sell some family heirlooms, or give a few fellas a handy. This subsequent shame will soon fade when you get this fella in hand. That's probably a poor choice of words if you've had to resort to selling hand jobs for cash. Sorry. Anyway, you guys have a great night. Catch you later.
Like, subscribe, and tell your da. Like, subscribe, and tell your da. Like, subscribe, and tell your da.